We are now recording, just so people know.
Sounds like a space shot. I just stuff up here.
And what time do you think we should begin?
I would give it maybe, it's just 3:01. Let's give it another minute or two because people are just logging in.
Okay.
I'm just admitting people.
Did have a question.
Who's that?
That's Richard.
Oh, hi, Richard.
For I don't know if many people can relate to this, but this is my current situation. So just work with me. I got to wait a few weeks for a new pair.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys have been here before, but anybody been here? So
it's brutal.
it's brutal, right? So I'm kind of doing the best I can. So just bear with me if it's little stuff to read.
Fine life, Richard. Every week, a new pair of glasses. This
Oh,
is
so
fine
you
life.
can relate.
Oh, yes.
Hi, Alan. Welcome.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm
Eileen?
good. I'm good.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Alan is a professor in the School of Sociology, but he's teaching in the School of Social Work this semester at Temple. And he's very anxious about Inside Out and taking the training and learning more and getting involved. So I'm glad he could attend.
Welcome, Alan.
Thank you. Lori, I think we met at the movie presentation, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Brian Stevenson.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Got it. I wasn't sure which movie. There's so many.
So wait, let's see. We've got about 50 people on the call.
Okay, well, why don't we begin? I'm going to say just a couple of words of welcome. So welcome to everyone. My name is Lori Pompa. I'm the founder and executive director of Inside Out. We've been having these Zoom calls for several months now. Every couple of weeks, we'll have a different topic. And so it's just great that, actually it was Eileen who spearheaded this particular issue because healthcare is very close to her heart. And so she has invited Judy Ryder from St. John's and Joanne Carroll, also from St. John's, Karl Miloski from Bucknell, and Brenda, you know what? Brenda?
Kucirka.
Yeah, I always trip over your last name, from Widener University. For those of you who do not know what Inside Out is, let me just say a couple of sentences and then I'm going to hand it off to Judy. What is Inside Out? After 23 years, I'm not sure if I can tell you. I am kidding. So what we have been doing over this time is taking outside students into prisons and jails and having class together over the course of a semester. Started off with just one class in 1997, and it has grown over the years into an international program. We have more than 1,100 college professors and others who have been trained in our methodology from throughout the United States and 12 other countries. It's really kind of astonishing to see how it's grown. And what has really been exciting is to see how individuals who get involved in this program put their stamp on it. And I think we'll see that today through this set of presentations. So I don't want to take up time. that hopefully just gives you a little snippet. And feel free, by the way, to visit our website to find out more about the program if you're interested. And also, if you're interested in taking one of our trainings, there's information on the website as well. All right, so Judy, you're it.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Lori, for just creating this forum for a way to the Inside Out Network to talk about incorporating health-related issues into Inside Out courses. And thanks to Eileen, who's been a super supporter in coordinating those efforts. So my name is Judy Ryder, and my colleague Joanne, Carroll, and I are going to talk about a seminar series that we organized called Conversations in the Time of COVID-19. Then we're going to hear from two other instructors, and then we'll take questions at the end. So by way of background, I taught Inside Out courses for 4 years through St. John's. First at Rikers Island, and then at Queensboro, which is a New York State minimum security for men, which has now become a reentry prison. I was teaching a very standard criminology, sociology course. And then Joanne joined me at Queensboro Prison, and her Inside Out course was one on public health. Both of these were a semester-long course, and both were full credit for the Inside students. When COVID hit in March, I finished the semester online with just the St. John's students and one man who had been released from Queensboro. Unfortunately, we didn't have the capability to connect virtually with the Queensboro students who remained inside. So as all of you know, it was a pretty dismal time for educational programming. We wanted to continue with the prison. We had good relations with the prison, but it wasn't happening. So we were trying to figure out what can we do. And so we started with the technology. Over the summer, the IT folks at St. John's worked with Queensboro staff, and they were able to connect the prison's standalone VTC, which is a video teleconferencing equipment, which I didn't know anything about, but they were able to get that to work with the university's WebEx platform. So it took us until August, I think, when we were able to connect the university, the prison, one room in the prison, and faculty who were working from home. So in this arrangement, the inside students would meet in a conference room. So there's a maximum space for 8 people. And they would see the facilitators on a big screen, like a video conference. So at that point, it was really clear we were not going to be able to run a regular Inside Out class. But with the virtual connection finally in place, we didn't want to let go of our relationship with Queensboro. So the question was now, what can we do? So it was in the aftermath of George Floyd's killing and the Black Lives Matter protests that followed, and the continuing threat of COVID-19. So we knew we had to come up with something different. We had to come up with something that would be educational and of immediate interest to those who were still inside. And so what we decided to do is create a seminar series to help facilitate discussion of the pandemic and all the associated health and racial disparities and the links between those disparities and the protests against racialized violence. So Joanne and I were joined by John Cortez, who might be on the call, I'm not sure. He's a regional manager for the PD Green program for the New York region. And in his capacity with PD Green, John had supported the Inside Out courses over the past 4 years by providing tutors, well, we call them mentors, for the inside students. He also has a political science background. So he was interested, and then another PD Green mentor who had worked with us for a couple of years is also a microbiologist at NYU. And he came on board, as did a medical anthropologist from St. John's and a writing instructor from Manhattanville College, who had also taught at Rikers. So we started sharing ideas about what this seminar would look like. And we watched the 2011 film Contagion, which has a very eerie resemblance to the current pandemic. So the film became our hook. It was how the rest of the semester was going to look, or the rest of the seminar. We figured it was a way to easily engage people and to start a discussion with all these intersections and interrelated topics. So the prison agreed to screen the film, and it was used as a way to recruit people and to provide a baseline of information and something visual that we could then start talking about. So they recruited 8 men. We started in October and we ran for 6 weeks. And this is where I'm gonna see if I can share my screen. All right. Yeah. All right. So this is a flyer that we used to recruit people, and it gives you an idea of the topics that we covered. And each week, one of us was responsible for leading the presentation and the discussion. Students were assigned readings in advance, and then the writing instructor also helped us with offering weekly writing prompts that were then discussed at the beginning of the next class. So the seminar was interdisciplinary, it was collaborative. We drew on the expertise of 6 faculty from 4 different institutions. That's St. John's, P.D. Green, NYU, and Manhattanville. So as you can see, well, I don't know, can you see that? I can make that bigger since people are, okay. So the first 3 sessions are specifically focused on basic biology and medical issues. The logic was to use the Contagion film to introduce the microbiology of viruses and how they're transmitted. Then discuss some of the underlying physical and social conditions that have caused African American communities to be so devastated by the coronavirus. And then a discussion of what a vaccine is, what it is not, and some of the equity issues around the distribution. The next 3 sessions were more broadly social. We discussed basically what does government owe people in times of crisis? How does or should society balance economic, public safety, and health challenges? And then with an understanding of the governmental structures and responsibilities, we discussed how some people and institutions use a crisis for their own profit. So how does this crisis become commodified? And then finally, we discussed the criminal justice system's rather uneven responses to COVID and issues of social unrest. So, and this flyer is for starting next week, 2 weeks, just updated a little bit. So the course is not an inside out course, but it's a model for what might be done if we're unable to be inside, and it drew on the expertise of people who had worked with Inside Out. This course was not for credit, but what we could offer was information and a place to discuss some of the contemporary issues, controversial issues together, and give a sampling of what a college seminar might be like. And all we could offer really at the end was a certificate, but each week we had between 5 and 8 men attending. It was billed as an open drop-in seminar, but certainly having a regular group, which is what we ended up with, helped build a sense of community. We had the same people coming back, which was great. And based on their participation in the survey responses, folks seemed quite pleased with the outcome. We're going to run it again in Queensboro and then replicate it at Westchester County Jail. And see how it goes. So that's an overview of what the seminar was. And Joanne is going to talk a little bit about some of the collaboration with the other groups. Joanne? Oh, stop this.
Okay, can you hear me? I'm muted, I think. Thank you, Judy. And again, thanks to Lori and Eileen and everyone who's been involved in organizing these conversations. They've been extremely helpful, all the ones I've attended over the several months. So I just want to continue to talk a little bit about this multi-institutional collaborative that is burgeoning as a result of our efforts this summer. So I'll skip over all the description that Judy's already gone through about what our goals were to keep the connection with Queensborough. And I want to point out that when we were looking for collaborators, we already were very involved in an organization in the local area called the New York Reentry and Education Network, which is really a group of people who come voluntarily, who are professionals that serve the incarcerated community and post-incarcerated community in a variety of ways. NYRN includes not only educators, but service providers, people who work for DOC and DOE and parole boards and all sorts of things. And this summer provided an unexpected opportunity when our meetings had to go virtual. Previously, we would meet maybe once a month. It would be in some location across New York City. So it meant, often hours of people traveling back and forth. But with this remote access, we now met bi-weekly, every other week we met, and a lot of initiatives got launched, a lot of connections got strengthened because of that. Now, the faculty that we knew already, many of them we knew already from NYRN, but we recruited John Proctor from Manhattanville, John Cortez, as Judy said, from the P.D. Green Foundation, and Enrique Rojas from NYU, assistant professor from NYU in microbiology. So we had a very successful fall semester. The conversations were really very interesting for all of us. We have a great deal of appreciation that the superintendent Breslin and his deputy superintendent for education, Michelle Yan, and their staff of Mr. Matthews and Ms. James were very, very enthusiastic about us coming in, and they worked very hard to set up this connection. Going forward, again, as Judy said, we're now moving to another facility. We'll have 2 seminars going on, one at Westchester County Jail, and that's brought another person into our little consortium, Andrew Scott Nicky from Manhattan College, who's been teaching Inside Out for a number of years at Rikers and more recently at Westchester. And he's connected to John Proctor and John Cortez. And so we're building this group. He's going to invite his current Inside students who's teaching a course through Manhattan this spring. And he's going to entice them to join our seminar by giving them opportunities for extra credit. So we feel that this opportunity, which was, primarily to provide something for the people inside in terms of an educational opportunity, it now provides us with a foundation for a collaborative program. We hope that this can be formalized in the future through agreements amongst our institutions, and will allow us to offer true Inside Out classes and credit-bearing courses. We know since our experience at St. John's, both Judy and I are very enthusiastic, but we've been unable to really expand and recruit more faculty at one institution. But now we have this partnership with people at other institutions who have a similar, a similar aim. We know this will involve getting affiliation agreements between the different institutions, and we do have some precedent at our university where we have affiliation agreements with, especially community colleges in the area, where we recognize the credits that their courses have earned them. So with the support of our Associate Provost, Andre McKenzie, he's been a strong supporter. He's even been able to maintain our small budget through the COVID crisis. We hope that we can build a consortium amongst different schools that can do far more than any one of us alone could do. And we hope that this consortium might also be attractive to funding organizations and granting institutions. So despite the challenges of the COVID crisis, we were able to maintain our connection, develop something that was certainly exciting for us, and from what the response of the men inside was, they also were very grateful to have this time to learn and to have conversation about it. So we hope we can build on this pilot program to expand the opportunities we can offer at Queensborough and at Westchester and other correctional facilities that we might partner with. And we really envision someday hoping to have a real consortium amongst these partners that we've developed. And so I'll end there, and thanks very much.
Thank you. And now we have Dr. Karl Miloski from Bucknell, who will talk about what he is doing with from a sociological medical perspective. Thanks.
I had to see if I could get unmuted. So there I am. So I'm Karl Miloski. I teach sociology at Bucknell. Within sociology, one of the main things I teach is medical sociology, but I got started in Inside Out about 4 years ago. Sort of it proceeds off in the background. That happened because I'm working at SCI Cole Township, which is outside of the town of Shamokin. About 5 or 6 years ago, they got a new superintendent who had spent time working at Muncie, where Bucknell had an active Inside Out program for a long time. And being exposed to Inside Out there, he was really interested in it at Cole Township. And we had a group of inside guys who were all lifers who created an organization called the Lifeline Association. and so they started partnering with him and with ideas. One of the things that they had done and started doing was a lot of charitable fundraising. And so they had some goals they wanted to achieve, and they sent out letters to professors at area universities. And after a lot of letters, I seemed to be the only one who responded. But for me, that was because I've spent a long time as a visitor through prisoner visitation support in the federal prisons. And I was really interested in working in a group situation. So, I joined up with them, and they said they wanted to do Inside Out. So I signed up for the training. Bucknell, I will say, has been incredibly supportive. And I think going forward, I think Eileen said we have 6 people doing the training this summer or something like that. And I'll be retiring after this year. So it's a good thing. We have a lot of people who jump in where I've been. So I'm teaching an Inside Out class. And our classes, we usually have about 6 or 8 inside guys. The prison likes to limit it to about 12 Bucknell students. This year, because we have COVID, we stopped our spring class right in the middle last year. And we anticipated for the class this spring that we'd never get in. So we have a kind of larger group of Bucknell students involved, about 15 or 16 involved there. We seem to be on a track to Zoom with the inside guys, sort of like Judy and Joanne are doing. We have the Zoom connection working. We have a room where they can go, but COVID has broken out in the prison, and so they're all quarantined. Of course, it's also broken out at Bucknell, so we're all quarantined. So we're doing a kind of a distance thing. We just can't move the inside guys into the room where they have the camera. So we haven't been able to do that yet. Because we've been doing this class for several years, and because we have an established kind of think tank type group inside the prison to work with us, one of the things that I did was I asked 2 of our veteran inside guys to act as TAs for the class. And so last spring, I think I asked them for ideas about what we ought to do, and they came up with the idea of, I'm going to turn on share screen here just a second. Hold on. Can I see it? I want this one. Can you see it? Oops, that's not it. Sorry, guys. It'll take me a minute to get my technology working. I wanted to show you the list of topics that we're doing. Can you see it? I'm still getting book text. Is that it?
No, it's there.
You're seeing this, okay. So so this is basically the list of topics that the 2 inside guys came up with. So I built a syllabus around that. I think the syllabus is on the resource page. That's much longer than this. And the idea is that each week we'll talk about one of these topics. My pattern is to write some discussion questions, which I send in. The Bucknell students do them, and the inside guys also do them. I think the discussion questions are challenging for inside guys, and the readings are challenging, and they said, don't stop doing that. We really like it. So we move ahead and do this. The other piece of this is the plan is for the inside students and the outside students to form teams and to investigate each one of these topics. So each team would take one of them. The inside guys were hoping that they could produce a pamphlet or brochure on each topic. That actually has sort of grown in terms of possibility. One of the things about our group is I've invited some outside people to be in, and one of them is a videographer who's worked with us before, who's willing to work on those films. We also have the head of the United Way in our group and an alum. So we have a number of people coming in. And talking about this, in my class, we haven't been able to talk to the inside guy. The inside guys are leading discussions with their people, and I'm asking them to see if inside guys will make choices about what they're interested in. There's real interest in COVID, of course. So, found some readings that are really interesting. In our preparing for this, we talked about the health in prison overview. There's a World Health Organization book on health in prison, and I managed to scan 3 chapters of that, and it really is mind-bending. If you think, from their perspective, prison is a healthcare institution, and and it sort of is. I mean, there are a lot of people who come from low-income communities who've never really had systematic healthcare and really haven't been instructed, and prison really does do a lot of those things because they deal with drug issues and things like that. So that's a very interesting reading. I think as we go down, the readings are all going to be interesting and provocative. We have one of our guys who's come out and is in the community, is very interested in loneliness and aging in prison. So I think that's going to be a very rich topic. There's a lot of interest in disability in prison. We went to an Urban Institute conference on research, new research initiatives in prison, and there was a disability person there. And it really strikes me that the American for Disabilities Act really doesn't apply in prison. And the articles I've found are things like what happens with autistic people in prison. But we also, what about people with mobility problems? So these are going to be issues, I think, they'll be very rich. One of our patterns is to have inside guys not only write field notes about what it's like to be in prison and what their experiences are. And I would say we've harvested some of the field notes people have done in the past. There's one guy who's in our group, but who's marooned in a living unit, so they can't move to be with the other guys, that he's been writing me emails about conditions in his living unit, and I've put them into a PDF and sent about to both my students and the inside students so they can read what he has to say. And so we're going I see that partly so the inside guys can see what writings might look like and what kind of topics would be there. I think if they kind of can get that in mind, then they, my experience is I write really interesting things. We also, as I say, we have the opportunity to do video. The superintendent has said as long as he can vet them and we only show them inside, we can do that. And the videographer is interested in working on projects like that. So that's kind of what we're doing. We'll see what the semester develops into. I think Zoom is, if we can do Zoom, it will be very exciting for everybody to be able to do that, and very frustrating because we just can't get in. Even if they vaccinate the prison, Bucknell is our students won't be vaccinated and they're afraid they'll still get COVID, so we can't go in. So that's where we're at.
Brenda, before you start, I'd like to say 2 things. Carl, I don't know if you know, you're not permitted to retire from Inside Out.
Oh, I'm not planning to do that.
Oh, okay.
The prison already said I can do that. I don't know if I can bring in Bucknell students. I will say the Bucknell students are so exciting for the inside guys.
Yeah.
Of course, the inside guys are really exciting for the Bucknell students. So
yeah. But it is something that you do for your whole life, you know, I'm just saying.
I can imagine.
So, and Brenda, could you, of course, start by explaining what's behind you?
Sure. What I'll do is I'm going to close my camera off so you can see it. So my course that I teach is social justice and advocacy. So what you see on my cameras is that it's the wave of social justice. So we have an assignment, and it's a creative self-expression assignment. And this was actually done by one of the men from my inside cohort. And it was the wave of social justice. And you'll see, I hope you can see, that there are handcuffs on one side and then a stethoscope on the other. And then the concepts that we talked about throughout our class: privilege, oppression, and all the various things that we talked about. We talked about, you know, all the isms. We talked about much of what Carl's talking about. You know, we talked about ableism. We talked about mental health. We've talked about all those things, and healthcare disparities as well. So the wave of social justice is washing over both inside and outside. And then at the bottom, it is the sort of ocean of social justice that's going to just be this groundswell as a result of the work that we do. So that's the hope. I think that I'm starting to see that with my students. So my course, really, by trade, I'm a nurse. I'm not teaching a nursing course, but I do bring nursing students in. So my outside cohort are all nursing students. And what we do is we get together, and I'll share my screen with you and show you just a little bit of what we do. So this is my course that we talk about social justice. Obviously, we start off with that. What is social justice? Why is it important? And we actually had a reading that the guys found interesting, was on what do nurses do with social justice, and what's the connection? And they were really interested to hear that. And then we look at privilege and oppression, and then we look at Bobby Harrow's cycle of socialization and liberation, and then we move it into advocacy, and then transitions and reentry, and change and transformation, and social justice, or self-advocacy and self-expression. So that's kind of what we do as we're moving through. I won't bore you with all my assignments, but this was the creative self-expression assignment. And basically, it's a very open assignment where we say, share who you are as an advocate for social justice through some form of creative self-expression. We've had people sing, do spoken word, poetry, essays, artwork, a whole range of things. So it's always interesting to tap more into that affective domain with the folks. And let's see if there's any, and this is just, if anybody's familiar, and I did put it in the references, with Siegel's model of social empathy. So my hope is that by teaching social empathy, that we then create folks who are willing to go out there and be advocates for social justice. So we're using this model to support advocacy and social justice moving forward. And this is just another creative expression from somebody from our very first class. And this was, and there's a poem attached to it. I just couldn't fit it all in PowerPoint. And it's, again, the inside and outside students holding hands. So it really was true to the spirit of Inside Out, which is really about breaking down these walls, deconstructing stigma. And that is a big piece of what my course is. I'm working with students who are nursing students, who I want to go out there into the healthcare settings, and hopefully into the prison. Hopefully I have some healthcare nurses going in, you know, deciding that that's their pathway, and addressing these disparities and treating people with kindness, compassion, and humanity. And this was actually some of the stuff that the Inside guys said that I thought was sort of speaks as well to, you know, what they're doing. And so we really saw each other as people, not stereotypes. We weren't striving so much. We weren't so much different than the same. We were striving to reach something bigger than ourselves. And that really spoke to that. They worked on advocacy projects and saw each other as change agents. This one always gets me. It was like water for my thirsty spirit. The class gave me confidence. It helped me to have the courage to follow through on what I believed and not get sidetracked. And then, of course, we know that the Inside guys read a lot more than my outside students. So I'm always blown away by different things they share with us. So this was Paulo Freire. Authentic help means, you know, and it goes through that quote of what authentic help is. and that we help each other mentally, growing together in a common effort to understand the reality which they seek to transform. And that was my hope for the class. And this particular person felt like that's what this class was about. So that was really good to hear. And the other piece of it was just that we all have a story to tell. And another one, and both, this was comments from both an inside and outside student also said the same thing. This was the most free I have felt in a long time. And for some people, they said this was the freest I ever felt in my entire life. And that spoke volumes to me. So the projects that we work on have been related to healthcare. My background, again, is that I'm a psych nurse, and I had been in SCI Chester prior to this, doing a lot of meeting with guys and doing mental health awareness classes. I did some work with their certified peer specialists, and also volunteer for Threshold. So I was really kind of familiar with the guys and their stories. And I thought that it would be really helpful to get the nursing students in there, because again, the hope is that we get nurses and we get healthcare providers that are compassionate. So a lot of our projects ended up being focused on healthcare issues, because as we had different conversations, the guys would share their experience, often with mental illness and mental health issues, as well as, the treatment they were receiving for their medical issues. And my students were really kind of blown away by the disparity, and really concerned, because in nursing school, they learned this sort of, the ideal treatment, and what they were seeing didn't match up with that. So a lot of the projects worked on things like addressing screening, educational things about mental health. We've worked with things on hypertension, diabetes, because this is a lot of the education that the guys felt they weren't getting. So the idea was that we would work together as a group on a project, a need, a social justice or advocacy need, driven by the inside folks, but certainly a partnership. And then as the course goes on, it sort of morphs a little bit into different things, year to year. And after my first class, we started having because I had the privilege of working with some of the most phenomenal guys that were serving life inside SCI Chester, amazing, amazing guys who then agreed to come on and be TAs for me. And I will tell you, I got to give a shout out to those Horton brothers. I know many of you have heard of them. They were in my first class, and I'll start crying. Every time I do this, I get a little emotional about it. But these guys were amazing, and they really stepped it up and came in and served as mentors and TAs. So that was really very exciting. And then this year, because of COVID, unfortunately, we couldn't go in, and it was a sadness for us all. So we worked with outside partners, and I'm so thrilled to say, and Richard, I hope maybe you'll speak a little bit about the experience. Mr. Richard Mosley was one of my fabulous partners, as was Elaine Salon. They both came in and worked with our students on projects that addressed healthcare issues and concerns regarding reentry, healthcare in the prison, as well as family issues and needs. We had Naomi Wilson came on board, Billy Horton, who is a cousin of the Horton brothers, also worked with us. Arminius Alston, for anybody from the SCI community, Arminius came on and shared, he was a juvenile lifer that was released and came on and spoke with the students. So I really, our class was not the same because we were not inside, but I will tell you that it was phenomenal, and it would not have happened had it not been for my partners. So much of my work is all about relationship and cultivating partnerships. And I wonder, Richard, if you want to share anything about the project your group worked on.
Yes, thank you. How you doing, everyone? My name is Richard Mosley Sr. I was glad to have met Ms. Kucirka. We met sitting on the Reentry Council in Chester, PA. And from there, we kind of brainstormed and to see where we could connect on projects, and her project was one of them. And I was really blown away by the intensity and the focus of the students. Because I got much from them as they did for me, especially one student that really shocked me. I'm thinking, okay, these students are doing well. Everybody has a reason why they're places or they're on specific paths. And it was one of your students And it shocked me when he said that his dad was in prison, and it really shocked me because you really don't know what people are going through, what people's families are going through, what people have been through. And so it really let me know that just by looking at people, you have no idea what they've been through or what they're currently going through. So it was very enriching for me also, as well, hopefully as it was for the students also. And I'm on several sides of this project. Like I'm a returning citizen. Now I'm a advocate, and I started a healthcare organization called the Fayette Health Justice Project, where we're fighting to get SCI Fayette shut down because it's sitting on over 50 million tons of toxic waste. And I was one of the persons that was very sick there. So I'm on the social justice, I'm on the healthcare side, now I'm on the reentry side. So I'm like on both sides of all these coins. So I'm just honored and humbled to be a part of anything that will see a change in the systematic ways that we do things.
Thanks, Richard. And Richard's group really looked at sort of the reentry process and what did people need to successfully reenter, and much of it focused on the issue of mental health. And anybody who's kind of been paying attention to state hospitals closing, and we hear prisons are the new asylums, and certainly we know the incidence of people suffering with addiction as well as mental health issues, there's a lot of them in prison. And so we really looked at that, and our projects addressed that. One year we had people that looked at trauma-informed care, because we know too that anybody with 4 ACE, if you have an ACE, adverse childhood experience score of 4 or higher, you are like 20 times more likely to end up incarcerated. And when we talk to the guys, a lot of the experiences they've had, really, had they had the resources outside, they maybe would have never ended up inside. So we do a lot of looking at mental health and again, the medical stuff. So that's kind of what my course does. And actually the project that my group is working on, Richard and I are looking at moving that forward, hopefully to the outside to get some sustainability to the project. So looking at what's that debriefing that somebody has when they re-enter from prison to the community, how do we address those mental health needs, and starting to look at that. So I could go on and on, obviously, but I won't. So thank you for listening, and I hope that there's somebody sees maybe a way that we can partner up, anybody interested in addressing healthcare, and certainly looking at healthcare providers and who they are in terms of treating folks with who are incarcerated or have a history. It would certainly make healthcare a whole different world.
Judy, I know you're going to do the Q&A on this, but I would like to ask Brenda a question just to clarify something for us. You said that you get very emotional when you talk about the Horton brothers. Could you just tell the group why that is?
Sure. I have known, and I had the privilege of meeting Freedom. I met Freedom when I started working at Threshold. We co-taught, and then Freedom asked me to come in and do a keynote on their day of responsibility. They have been serving a life sentence, and they're getting commuted. I'm hoping they're going to get released any day soon. I'm hoping the board has voted for them to be released. So they were serving a life sentence, and these guys were never ever bitter, resentful, or blaming anybody. They moved forward. They were a positive force within that prison, and I saw them mentoring so many guys. So they really, I really have a special spot in my heart for them, because they got me into the prison, and it was because they trusted me that they brought me in, and I was able to do some of the work, addressing these mental health issues. And both Freedom and Lee do all kinds of amazing things. They write plays, they have days of responsibility. They're looking at they're working on reentry. They are just tireless forces of positivity in that prison. And it just amazes me that anybody could sit in that situation and have the outlook they have. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but they are truly amazing men. And anybody who's been in SCI Chester, I would think you've probably come upon them and know what when I say that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lori, you can go ahead, or I just want to thank everybody for being here and for sharing your stories and your work and your dedication. And if opening up for any questions or comments, anybody else is doing work around health issues through Inside Out, or if you have any questions for any of us, the mic is yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nana. I am a second-year medical student at New York Medical College. I took an Inside Out course at the University of Pittsburgh in 2018 at SCI Fayette, and I have just been kind of in the works of attempting to bring an Inside Out program to my school and start kind of an elective at my school, since Westchester County Jail is on our campus. I've been in contact with Eileen, Judy, and Carl, who have been so helpful through this process. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm in the beginning steps of kind of bringing this idea to the deans and talking with them about it. So if anyone had any input at all or any advice or would like to talk to me, I would love to have any conversations. I can leave my email in the chat, but I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nana. I want to mention to the group, Nana is representing the second medical school that has contacted Inside Out about possibly building something from our curriculum for the importance of medical students to ultimately know and learn about this special population. So I applaud Nana's energy. After we met, she is just head on with her deans in trying to incorporate something. And as she said, this is just the first step. So there's a way to go. But I can think of a few people on this call who possibly could assist or help Nana think through what she needs to do as it relates to get her deans to approve something in the next couple of years. So thanks for speaking up, Nana. Does anyone else have any other questions or answers? I will tell you that this group has created a resource document of articles and links to videos that everyone thought would be helpful. And probably by Friday, I will be sending out a thank you to everyone who signed up, who attended, and for those who couldn't attend, get a link to the recording, and we will send out the resource list. In addition to that, you will get a copy of a flyer from Inside Out. For those that do not know about Inside Out, we encourage you to learn more about what we do and become a partner with us. And maybe down the road at some point, take a training. And if a training is not in the ropes, for those that are associated with colleges and universities, open it up to develop more classes at your home school, college and university.
So I wonder if we could put somebody on the spot. Deputy Wall, are you willing to say a few words about Inside Out at your facility?
Yes, I hope you can hear me okay. I'm using my phone and it's not the best connection in here. Can you hear me okay?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll be brief.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's going very well. We love it. With the Zoom, it's going well. I only wish we had 3 or 4 different Zoom rooms to use. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but it's going very well here. I just wish we had more rooms that we can use for everybody. But
Brenda,
just the one, it's sad but we love it.
Brenda may be able to say, because she's very active with SCI
Now we
because
can hear you.
Yeah, so I know that you have, it's LaSalle that's doing the Inside Out, and I had spoken to the person who's teaching, and it sounded like it was really that you were going to do breakout rooms. So I'm hoping that that is working. We talked about some strategies for how that might work, because again, right now things are kind of limited as to where is that Zoom and how do you get everybody in that room, and with social distancing, how do you get them all on the same place, because students are coming in on their own individual device, but inside they're in one spot. So that's been kind of a limitation. I will say that I'm also teaching not an Inside Out class, but a creative writing class with Jane Thompson, who I don't know if Jane's still on, but I saw Jane signed on, and Dr. Julie Woolman, who's the president of Widener. The 3 of us are teaching a creative writing course, and Julie's doing, looking at the This I Believe essays. I'm using Life Inside from the Marshall Project, which the guys seem to really love. And I use that in my Inside Out class as well, those narratives of life inside. And Jane is doing memoirs. And this was kind of an offshoot of, we had a post-traumatic growth group that we worked on. And now we're working on more writing and sort of that narrative pedagogy in terms of healing. And it's been a phenomenal experience. But we have had the privilege of Zooming in with the guys to have like little conferences. And Tanisha Spall is the principal there, and she's done a fabulous job as well. And I really appreciate Deputy Wall. You guys have been phenomenal in terms of working with Inside Out and the opportunities that the guys get. And I know it's because you guys really believe it, and you're pulling through that education piece, because I know it's been difficult, but I think even the little sort of headway with Zoom has been really helpful. It's been nice. We've been doing like conferencing with the guys, so we don't have them all there, but conference with them to talk about their work. So it's definitely, it's a learning curve, and it's a bit of a challenge, but I feel like it's working.
A bit of a challenge is the operative phrase there, right? All of this so much is. Thank you. Anybody else with experience? Lynn, it looked like you have been teaching Inside Out through med school with med students. You want to say anything?
Sure. I went through the training in July of 2018 and did my first class in the spring of 2019 with 12 first-year med students and women at York Correctional Institution. I'm at Quinnipiac University in North Haven, Connecticut. And we did a class called Health and Poverty. I'm an anthropologist by training, so it was, even though I'm faculty at the med school, I'm sort of more in the sociology and that sort of realm. And so we ran it again in the spring. And of course, like everyone else, we had to stop, and we don't have any possibility of virtual right now. But I totally agree, Brenda. I think I really want med students, and whenever possible, I advertise it to the students in the nursing school and the students in the schools of health, the programs in the School of Health Sciences. Schedule wise, obviously logistics, it's hard to get everybody's schedules to work out, but I think it's so important that future healthcare providers recognize that this is a large, very underserved population. We're doing some collaboration with some of the physicians in the Connecticut DOC who will take some of our fourth-year students for elective rotations. So we've set several of those experiences up. And there's a clinic in New Haven called the Transitions Clinic, which serves recently released folks and tries to provide some continuity of care. And we've got several students working through that. And so I think we're just doing what we can to, obviously Inside Out is amazing and I love it and I want to go back. But with the current reality, we're trying to be creative and figuring out other ways to ensure that our students have some exposure to all of these issues and to this particularly vulnerable population.
That's really great, Lynn. You know, as my nursing students say to me, every student should take this class. I mean, the hope is that we could do at least an immersion with the think tank or something like that, because they're seeing people being treated really terribly in the hospital setting.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have to say, I'm not totally sure I agree, just because I don't want to cause harm to some of our incarcerated people. And unfortunately, I don't have the most faith that all of our students are at a place where they could experience this in a safe way. But I totally agree. I wish they were, and I wish we could. I will just share very quickly the reason that I got interested in Inside Out was that a social work faculty member on our campus put together a panel in 2017 of formerly incarcerated women. And one of them told a story about how she was incarcerated when she was 8 months pregnant. And she was shackled to the bed while giving birth. And even though that's against, sorry, now I'm going to cry. Even though that's against the law in Connecticut, no one stood up for her. And that's when I decided that I have a voice and I want to make sure that nobody who graduates from our medical school it can use ignorance as a reason for that kind of treatment, because I don't know if it was ignorance. I don't know if it was disrespect. I don't know if it was fear, but I don't ever want to hear that happened to anybody else.
And I think a lot of it is sort of based on fear and just not having that social empathy. Because I've heard similar stories where somebody comes in, has a baby, not the, certainly I've heard the shackled piece, but then of nurses saying, well, why does she need to see that baby? She's not going to have that baby. She doesn't. And just, right, like in front, like just like the person wasn't even a person and not there. So yeah, we've got a long ways to go. Sure.
Yeah, and I feel like healthcare providers do have so much power, and there's such a power imbalance, and we see it in egos, and we see it in treatment of all kinds of folks and medical racism. But I do think that by exposing people to this particularly vulnerable population, I hope that will teach some empathy that will then expand to all kinds of other people.
Yeah.
Lynn, you're absolutely correct. I know Lori mentioned early on about my desire or passion to bring this topic to a head. But I'm a former hospital administrator in New York, 975 bed acute care hospital, Lower East Side, fully union. I then was the COO of DC General in DC. And if you know that hospital, it's literally across the parking lot from DC jail. And it was constant, you know, but at that time, it's, as you talk about the women coming in who are in labor, who are being shackled or to the beds or whatever, yes, it's policies, some of them that just don't make sense. And then I was recruited back to Philadelphia for another large hospital in operations. And so I've seen it, and I am very, very passionate about it. And I know I've driven Lori crazy, but, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, but I do believe that things have to change for this special population. They are humans. They needed to be treated with dignity and respect. And leave it at that. So that's my spiel.
I was just going to ask Jonathan Cortez if he wanted to say a few things from PD Green. He had been working with us with the mentors, but then also joined us in our seminar, and he was just able to join today. So Jonathan, if you want to.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be sharing this virtual space with you all. So yeah, I'm Jonathan Cortez with the PD Green program. I manage our operations in New York. For those of you who are not aware of the PD Green program and the work we do, we support education initiatives and as well as the academic of incarcerated and formerly incarcerated individuals. I have been working with Judy since 2016, first on Rikers, then at Queensborough, and have also worked with Andrew Skotnicki at Manhattan College, also at Rikers and at Westchester. And I had the privilege to be able to support both of these professors in being able to continue with their academic programming in some way, shape, or form. At Westchester, we were able to actually continue, I mean, it's hard to call it inside out, given the sort of virtual dynamic, but we were able to help facilitate Andrew Skotnicki's course there with a synchronous learning component where we had a PD Green teaching assistant lead effectively a recitation, breaking down some of the readings and materials. Professor Skotnicki would join on occasion as well for the first portion to just answer any questions that the inside students might have had. And on occasion, we were actually able to get some of the outside students to join as well. We also incorporated the outside students. We had them all attend our training. Lynn, I really appreciate just everything you shared with us and your sentiments. I think that's why political education and particularly education about the power imbalances, carceral settings, having a good understanding of sort of like root causes, sort of challenging the sort of like neoliberal idea that people are making like rational decisions, and that's what ends them up. They're making a decision to end up in the situation they're in when society is responsible for many of the criminogenic factors that contribute to people ending up in a jail or in a prison in the first place. So I think that education is pivotal before sending people in and having them, work in carceral settings. And that's, a huge facet of the work we do. We primarily, aside from just offering logistical support, we send in volunteer tutors to work with the incarcerated learners. And so, once things transitioned to virtual, we had the outside students participate in our training, which was a new thing that we hadn't done before, which was very exciting. And they all contributed in some way, shape, or form, whether it was creating videos that would be shared with the learners through secure tablets, APDS tablets, not JPay or Novo, which charge the user. These tablets, users don't incur any sort of fee or charges, which is obviously very important. They're also more widely available. And so, using their learning management system, we were able to have asynchronous videos, lectures from the what would have been, the lecture that, or, the sort of seminar that takes place on the inside. We were able to break that up into discrete sort of categories, so to speak, add those to the learning management system and supplement that with videos that the outside students would make, media that we would add to enrich the learning, and of course the readings, and have the assignments also facilitated through the learning management system, which during synchronous sessions that we had with PD Green TA, the professor, and on occasion some of the outside students, work on those assignments, break down the readings, share our screen to show, the questions and start answering them together, pulling quotes,
John?
helping. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're kind of going over, and I just want to make sure that everybody got any last words about the health stuff. So,
Significant apologies. I thought this was until 4:30 for some reason. Well,
No.
that's the lay of the land. And then with respect to our collaboration together, I'm sure Judy, you already spoke to it as well. So, I mean, I think that was like really awesome, the way we were able to incorporate that. Obviously, there are a lot of sort of challenges to doing that. There, we were just leveraging connections, partnerships, so on and so forth to be able to facilitate it.
Good. Yeah, thank you. No, it has been good. So I know we're a little bit over. Anybody, any final words, anything related to health issues inside?
Yeah, I see Alan has his hand raised.
Okay. You're muted.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to share a story with you all about my personal experience with an incarcerated citizen. My sister, Kim Joyce, has been serving a life sentence at Cambridge Springs. She's serving 42 years of that life sentence. I literally just talked to her earlier today in reference to a time when she actually had to go and have surgery. And that's why I applaud the work of Brenda, Lynn, and also Jonathan, when you talked about affirming the humanity. So what ended up happening is once you're under anesthesia, if anybody when you're under anesthesia, you can't tell no lies, right? So your character comes out. So she's in there just talking and asking questions. She's laughing. She's doing all this. She doesn't even know that she's talking to people. But what ended up happening is when she came out of anesthesia, all the doctors and nurses were just staring at her as if like who are you and how can you be that way? And then some of the guards actually told her what went on. And what I told her today was, you've never let your mind be incarcerated. Your humanity has never been incarcerated. Your body is, but your mind and your spirit and your soul has never been incarcerated. So what she ended up doing, she impacted them so much because she showed her humanity. And they weren't looking at her as a human. They did their everyday jobs, surgery, nursing, whatever the case may be, but they had an opportunity to look at someone whose body was incarcerated, but showed their humanity through their spirit and their words. So I just wanted to share with everyone how important this work is and how impactful it can be for the work that everyone's doing. So I applaud you all for doing that. And hopefully I'll be able to get involved with it a little bit more for teaching some classes. But so I just wanted to bring that from the inside, from my experience. So thanks a lot for letting me share.
Alan, thank you. That was really beautiful. And that is actually a perfect place, I think, for us to end. Thanks to the four presenters. You brought up some really, really interesting and fruitful things for us all to think about. And to everybody who, has joined us today. And so, we'll be having some other Zoom things coming up, which, you'll find out about. So have a wonderful rest of the week. And take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
God bless. Have a great day, everyone. Get out of here.